On Boxing Day, 1900, the relief ship Hesperus cut through the freezing swells of the North Atlantic, bound for the remote lighthouse of Eilean Mòr. Captain Jim Harvey expected to see a relief flag or a greeting party on the landing. Instead, the lighthouse lamp was dark. He blasted the ship's steam whistle and fired a signal flare into the gray sky, but the island remained silent. Relief keeper Joseph Moore rowed ashore alone and began the long ascent up the 160 narrow stone steps carved directly into the cliff face. At the summit, he found the compound gates closed and the heavy doors to the living quarters locked tight from the inside. When he finally stepped into the kitchen, he found a total vacuum: no fire, no voices, and no men. In this secure, impenetrable fortress, the keepers had simply vanished, leaving the station fully operational and completely empty. The Flannan Isles, also called the Seven Hunters, are a cluster of rocky outcrops sitting 80 miles off the Scottish mainland. It is an unforgiving landscape, where the sheer verticality of the cliffs makes every daily task a confrontation with the Atlantic. The three men stationed here, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, were veteran mariners with decades of service between them. They lived by the rigid protocols of the Northern Lighthouse Board, a set of unyielding rules designed to ensure that the light never failed and the keepers stayed alive. For these three disciplined professionals to leave the lighthouse unmanned, something had to be powerful enough to override their years of training and survival instincts. Searching for an explanation, investigators found the official lighthouse logbook left behind on a desk in the silent tower. The entries, beginning December 12th, describe a terrifying shift. The keepers recorded a storm of apocalyptic fury, with winds more violent than anything they had witnessed in their combined careers. The entries suggest a deteriorating atmosphere inside the stone walls. James Ducat, the veteran principal keeper, was recorded as being unnervingly quiet as the gale raged. Even more unsettling was the report on Donald MacArthur. Despite his reputation as a tough, physically robust sailor, the logbook describes him weeping and praying in terror. On December 15th, the logs come to a sudden, final close with the words, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." The written record leaves a trail of psychological distress, suggesting a crew that had been pushed to their limit well before they disappeared. However, when Superintendent Robert Muirhead cross-referenced these logs with external records, the investigation encountered a disturbing contradiction. While the keepers wrote of a world-ending gale, weather stations on neighboring islands reported calm weather and clear skies. The data shows it was impossible for such a storm to exist only over the Flannan Isles, while the surrounding ocean remained perfectly still. This discrepancy introduces the possibility of island fever. It raises the question of whether three experienced men suffered a shared claustrophobic hallucination. Investigators were left to reconcile the keepers' recorded experience with the physical reality of a peaceful Atlantic. Back inside the tower, the physical evidence provided a series of forensic snapshots of the men's final moments. Investigators found a cold, untouched meal, a stopped clock, and a single toppled chair, pointing to a sudden panicked exit. In the hallway, two sets of heavy oilskins were missing from their pegs. This indicates that one keeper had run out into the freezing winter air in his shirt sleeves, an unthinkable breach of safety protocol for an experienced mariner. Outside, the landscape showed extreme violence. Massive iron railings had been twisted, and a 1-ton boulder was hurled uphill by a massive force. The interior of the lighthouse remained perfectly orderly and locked, while the exterior bore the marks of a devastating impact. Superintendent Muirhead's official inquiry reached a stalemate. No bodies ever washed ashore, and no clues appeared to explain how three men could vanish from a locked island. One theory suggests a freak rogue wave surged over the 200-foot cliffs, sweeping the men away as they attempted to secure their equipment. Others point to the psychological pressure of the isolation, speculating on a sudden act of violence or a shared break from reality within the tower. These theories were joined by local legends of the Seven Hunters, fueling superstitions that something ancient and malevolent claimed the keepers. The lighthouse on Eilean Mòr was automated in 1971. Today, its beam continues to sweep across the Atlantic, maintained entirely by machines. The Flannan Isles remains a terrifying example of absolute isolation, a story where the absence of facts forces the imagination to provide the final dark details.